Greetings everyone, we are Group D from Tutorial 5 and we'll be presenting a country profile on South Korea. To begin with, we'll analyze the effects of globalization on South Korea and whether or not it brought positive or negative effects. The International Monetary Fund mentioned that globalization refers to the progress of the combination of global products, services, and capital. And globalization itself has been a huge factor in South Korea's growth and economic success. Modern South Korea is a leader in many industries, from technology and automobiles to music and entertainment. Globalization also involves a wide range of dimensions such as culture, economical, political, and environmental. The effects of globalization should involve most countries, but the question to be answered is the difference in globalization's effects on different countries. South Korea is considered a developing country by the United Nations, and Hartungi in 2006 concluded that the main benefit of globalization is to develop countries and multinational corporations. Judging based on these factors alone wouldn't be a comprehensive evaluation on globalization's effects on South Korea, and instead we'll shift our focus on four main factors: employment, natural environment, national sovereignty, culture, and cultural diversity and poverty. The effects of globalization brings higher salaries to higher value-added industries and enhances the usage efficiency of producing factors for a developed economy. However, it also leads to the situation that developing economies cannot provide opportunities in higher value-added industries, where the wage of low value-added industries decreases and the employment offshoring also contributes to the increase of unemployment rate. The main industry in South Korea are high technical industries such as electricity and semiconductor, and these industries are all high value added. Furthermore, Davidson et al. In 2020 stated that globalization might lead to the decline of the middle class and provide more opportunity to the high wage and low wage class. To Korea, this is an advantage as there will be more opportunity chances for high wage and low wage class. Globalization also has several effects on the natural environment, with countries signing the environmental standard, and public pressure also forces government and multinational corporations to focus on sustainability. However, due to the increase of pollution, the environment is damaged by the trend of globalization. Slogierski in 2021 mentions that globalization explores new markets for corporations, which leads to the increase of transportation of products and the increase of emission as well. Korea's main industries, such as electricity and semiconductor, are popular on the international market and need to be delivered to different domestic regions or to different countries, which also increases the emission of greenhouse gases. To satisfy these demands, facilities such as roads and bridges are constantly being built, which might further damage the natural environment. Lonely Planet also mentions that 70% of the natural area of Korea is not developed, with the reason being that 90% of the population are gathering in the city area. The current energy reform plan has made plans to try to replace coal and nuclear sources with renewable resources. Therefore, it can be concluded that globalization brings environmental issues to Korea, as it is still trying to solve this issue and focus on sustainability. Globalization also allows for South Korea's increasing contact with other global institutions that help enhance their political power. Due to the immigration fostered by this, it also increases the cultural diversity and can attract elites from different industry and culture. However, there are also some political interventions from global institutions, as increasing cultural diversity might lead to the decline of national sovereignty. Korea's national sovereignty are usually threatened by its location. For many years, the Korean peninsula have been related to many international disputations between the US, China, and Japan. Globalization also leads to the rise of the Korean music industry. Fitraula in 2019 stated that the Korean music industry is not only a commercial industry supported by the government, but also acts as a defense to the Western culture invasion. The Korean music industry can be one of the dominators in the global music market, as it attracts global customers and provides huge profit. This can also be a symbol of a country's culture, as it helps strengthen the limitation of culture and while at the same time increasing cultural diversity that can provide the chance of development of their own culture. The effects of globalization can help developing countries decrease poverty. However, not all developing countries are all engaged in this process, which leads to the increasing gap of income between different income levels. Kwang Yong-shin in 2014 mentioned that the lack of development of welfare system is the main reason why Korea cannot correct the trend of inequality and poverty. Without complete welfare system, the income level gap extends rapidly as social issues like unemployment can't be solved appropriately. This can lead to future families being unable to provide higher level education to next generation kids, which in turn could lead to these kids unable to contribute to South Korea's economy, as South Korea relies heavily on high value added industry. This is disadvantageous for South Korea as it leads to a vicious cycle for these children. Overall, we can conclude that South Korea emerges as a winner of globalization with positive impacts such as increasing employment levels and cultural diversity. However, South Korea needs to manage its issues with regards to its natural environment and poverty to have a bigger positive impact fostered by globalization.
Now we're gonna look at the second topic of this presentation, which is the economic development and the human development of South Korea. First one, we're gonna talk about the economic development, and we're gonna use the measurement of gross national income or GNI and also triple P or purchasing power parity. For gross national income, it is one measure to evaluate one country's economic development. GNI is the sum of income produced by resident in the country plus the net income from abroad. It is one of the clearest methods to show the standard of living of every citizen. The GNI of South Korea in 2020 is 43,044 US dollars. The South Korea belongs to the high income group. This shows that it makes a lot of consumptions, investment, and international trade to help economic growth. As one of the biggest export and import countries, South Korea export high-tech manufactured products like machinery, LCD, and wireless communication devices. And it has other partners to trade, such as China. In this case, its economy has increased a lot. Another standard that one country can use to judge whether its economy developed positively is the purchasing power parity or triple P. It aims to estimate how many goods and services can be purchased in a foreign country by 1 unit of this country's currency. Then the country decides whether to adjust the gross national income based on the observations such as cost of living, and it can also help make appropriate policies to help its economies at the same time. The PPP of South Korea is 2,304.83 billion in 2020. It ranks 14 in the world. This shows that South Korea can earn more when trading with other countries. The second one, we're gonna talk about the human development in South Korea. So, to determine the development of one country, level of human development should be considered. Then we're gonna use the Human Development Index to see the data of South Korea. In total rank, the Human Development Index of South Korea is 23, which is very high, and it can be shown by the life expectancy at birth in Australia. In South Korea, it represents the expected number of years one person may live from birth. From the research, the life expectancy at birth in South Korea is about 83. This is a high number compared to other countries. A country with a higher life expectancy indicates that the social development is good and the government has high medical skills to provide universal health coverage. The third question that we're going to talk about is the culture distinct between Australia and South Korea. From this part, we're going to use the half TD culture dimension factors. The first one, we're going to talk about the power distance. This is the extent to which the less powerful member of institution or an organization within a country expect and accept that power is distributed unequally. At this part, South Korea has earned more number, which is 60. This means that people accept an hierarchical order in which everybody has a place and which needs to know for the justification. Hierarchy in an organization is seen as reflecting inherent inequalities centralization is power. Subordinates accept to be told what to do, and the ideal boss is a benevolent autocrat. The second one, we're going to talk about the individualism, which is the degree of interdependence a society maintains among its members. Australia, with a score of 90 on this dimension, is a highly individualist culture. This translates into a loosely neat society in which the expectation is that people look after themselves and their immediate families. In the business world, employees are expected to be self-reliant and display initiative. Also within the exchange-based world of work, hiring and promotion decisions are based on merit and evidence of what one has done or can do. The third one, we're going to look at the masculinity. This is the fundamental issue here is what motivates people. Wanting to be the best or masculine or liking what you do or feminine. Australia scores 61 on this dimension and is considered a masculine society. Behavior in school, work, and play are based on the shared values that people should strive to be the best they can be and that the winner takes all. Australians are proud of their successes and achievements in life, and it offers a basis of hiring and promotion decision in the workplace. Conflict are resolved at the individual level, and the goal is to win. The next one, we're going to talk about the uncertain avoidance. This is the extent to which the member of a culture feel threatened by ambiguous or unknown situation and have created belief and institution that try to avoid this. At this part, South Korea has scored 85. It's one of the most uncertain avoiding countries in the world. Countries exceeding high uncertainty avoidance maintain rigid codes of belief and behavior and are intolerant of orthodox behavior and ideas. In these cultures, there is an emotional need for rules, even if the rules never seem to work. Time is money. People have an inner urge to be busy and work hard. Precision and functionality are the norm. Innovation may be resisted. Security is an important element in individual motivation. The next one, we're going to talk about the long-term orientation, which is how every society has to maintain some links with its own past while dealing with the challenge of the present and the future. At 100, South Korea scores as one of the most pragmatic. Long-term oriented societies' notion of the one and the only Almighty God is not familiar to South Koreans. People live their life guided by virtues and practice good example. In corporate South Korea, you see long-term orientation in the higher on capital rate, priority to steady growth of market share rather than to a quarterly profit, and so on. They all serve the durability of the companies. The idea behind it is that the companies are not here to make money every quarter for the shareholders, but to serve the stakeholders and society at large for many generations to come. The last one, we're gonna talk about the indulgence, which is the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulses. At this part, with a high score of 71, Australia is an indulgent country. People in society classified by a higher score in indulgent generally exhibit a willingness to realize their impulses and desires with regard to enjoying life and having fun. They possess positive attitudes and have tendency towards optimism. And in addition, they place a higher degree of importance on leisure time and act as they place and spend money as they wish. That's all the culture distance based on the half to the culture dimension factors.
Question 4. For a country like South Korea, trade remains an important weapon to many other emerging markets, both domestically and internationally. Using David Ricardo's argument of comparative advantage, we will analyze the industries South Korea should focus on when looking to trade with other countries. Before we begin analyzing, it is important to give a contextual background as to the current trade situation in South Korea. According to the International Trade Administration, South Korea currently has 17 free trade agreements. Some of them, namely Asian countries, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and Singapore. South Korea has also been a member of the World Trade Organization, or WTO, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, since December 1996. This set the foundational background for South Korea, and we can see that the country has set itself to be a competitive destination for other countries to begin trade with. In 2019, South Korea ranked 6th in total exports and 9th overall in total imports. Its main exports are electronic products such as integrated circuits, machinery, and motor vehicles, particularly automobiles. South Korea exports mainly to China, the United States, Vietnam, Hong Kong, and Japan. South Korea mainly sets itself as a technologically developed country and has a huge technology penetration in the country. Its main export, being electronic products, possess the abundant supply South Korea can produce and trade to other countries through its comparative advantage. This means that South Korea should look into the electronics industry when trading with other countries. According to Goldstein Research, companies such as LG keep up to date with the latest trends of advancing technologies. One example was that LG introduced a mobile application called HomeChat, which was first introduced in South Korea and not long after became a technology sought after by other countries. South Korea holds an advantage as well. It's able to achieve manufacturing efficiency that would allow production at lower cost. This was achieved through a combination of effective government policy and corporate strategy. Its mature market keeps the demand domestically and internationally stable, which makes the electronics industry an interesting industry South Korea should look for when trading with other countries. Not only the electronics industry, but South Korea can also look into trading with manufacturing, especially the automotive industry. South Korea's abundance of localized auto parts and the presence of a mass production system specifically built for exports make it a competitive market for exports to other countries. Korea is an attractive destination for high-end manufacturing thanks to its highly skilled workforce, world-class infrastructure, advanced R&D, and strategic location for the Asia and Pacific. Industries such as agriculture and petroleum should be avoided for South Korea due to their lack of petroleum reserves and poor topography. On the other hand, when looking at what industries Australia should focus on the mining industry or resource-based product. Australia is considered a major driver in this industry as it produces 19 different types of minerals such as coal, timber, copper, and iron ore, in significant amounts from nearly 400 operating mines across the country. This dominance in the market was brought to by several factors such as the advances in mining technology to allow for carbon-based processing technologies and the increased demand for these minerals, specifically fostered by China over the past decade. Moreover, Australia's abundance of inhabited land and subsurface geology has boosted the competitiveness of this industry. Australia mainly exports these minerals to countries like China, South Korea, Japan, and India. Currently, Australia has 11 free trade agreements with several countries, including South Korea. South Korea is Australia's third largest export market due to South Korea's dependence on Australia's energy, resources, and agriculture. Therefore, we posit that Australia should also focus on the agriculture industry when looking to trade with other countries, as Australia has a clear reputation of a producer of a clean, green, and safe food, in particular beef, wheat, and canola. In South Korea alone, the Korea-Australia Free Trade Agreement has already provided ways to remove tariffs on this Australian export due to demand surging in South Korea, which makes it a competitive market for Australia to trade with. In conclusion, this presentation briefly covered the country profile of South Korea, where we analyzed whether it has been positively or negatively impacted by globalization and other factors such as economic and human development, culture, and trade. We hope that this presentation has provided a foundational background on what type of country South Korea is. Thank you for listening.